Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, a conversation with Bhaskar Sankara, president of The Nation magazine and founding editor of Jacobin magazine. We'll get Bhaskar's take on a number of trending topics, including a new book out that suggests that Barack Obama was always working behind the scenes to ensure that Kamala Harris would not be the nominee. Ouch. And we'll discuss Senator Cory Booker's record-breaking progressive filibuster versus his more centrist voting record. That's what the Bhaskar Sankara of The Nation magazine in our second hour. In our third hour.
And so, my friends, they did not die in vain. God still has a way of wringing good out of evil. And history has proven over and over again that unmerited suffering is redemptive. The innocent blood of these little girls may well serve as a redemptive force that will bring new light to this dark city. The Holy Scripture says, a little child shall lead them. The death of these little children may lead our whole Southland from the low road of man's inhumanity to man to the high road of peace and brotherhood. These tragic deaths may lead our nation to substitute an aristocracy of character for an aristocracy of color. The spilled blood of these innocent girls may cause the whole citizenry of Birmingham to transform the negative extremes of a dark past into the positive extremes of a bright future. Indeed, this tragic event may cause the white South to come to terms with its conscience.
That, of course, was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivering his eulogy for the 4 little girls killed in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing September 15, 1963. In Hour 3, we'll be joined by 2 guests, Paul Kix, author of the book You Have to Be Prepared to Die Before You Can Begin to Live, 10 Weeks in Birmingham That Changed America, and we'll be joined today by Sarah Collins Rudolph, a survivor of the church bombing which claimed the life of her older sister, Addie Mae Collins. Going to be an amazing hour when we get to Hour 3. But in this first hour today,
all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesnmatter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
57 years ago tomorrow, on April 4, 1968, Dr. King was gunned down in Memphis, Tennessee, on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel, as you well know. It has become a bit of an annual ritual for me that on this anniversary, this commemoration, I am joined every year in conversation by noted scholar, best-selling author, licensed minister, professor, and dare I say, disruptor, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. When I come forward, I'll cut him loose for the rest of the hour. You're listening to Mike Dyson on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You've lost so much weight. How'd you do it?
I got medical treatment for weight loss through Zelty and lost 50 pounds. I struggled for the longest time, but Zelty makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelty providers can prescribe FDA-approved weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight, like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others.
I've heard those medications can help you lose weight, but aren't they expensive?
Zelty can help get the medication covered by insurance, so it's as little as $0 a month.
What if you don't have insurance?
No problem. Zelty may be able to help you get other GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% off the price of name brand medications.
I'm ready to start losing weight. How do I get started with Zelty?
Just text.
Text SUNNY to 200-300 to get started today with Zelty and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text SUNNY to 200-300. That's SUNNY to 200-300. SUNNY to 200-300.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
As I said, around this time every year, I look for a visit from my friend, the Right Reverend Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Mike Dyson, the M to the E to the D. How are you, sir?
He smiled, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, sir?
Man, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well, and always, as I said, honored to be in conversation with you around this anniversary, this time of the year. This is a very, very, very bizarre, grim moment in America for all the reasons you and I both know. It's fascinating for us to have this conversation this year in light of the fact that we find ourselves in the midst of Trump 2.0. And you go back a few months ago, Donald Trump, of course, is inaugurated on the King holiday. What do you make of this particular commemoration in this peculiar American moment?
Well, we could never find a more suitable figure to appeal to as we navigate the treacherous waters and the dangerous shoals of this new administration and the politics of fear, resentment, vengeance, jealousy, and hate that have prevailed. In many ways, we are taken back to Dr. King's last day on earth, the last 2 days on earth, where it was raining like cats and dogs, and he was in his bed, and he didn't want to face the crowd, and he sent others as his support, as his symbolic stand-ins, and they wouldn't do. And so they called him from Mason Temple, Ralph Abernathy and Jesse Jackson, two great men in their own right, and said, no, Dr. King, nobody can substitute for you. But we are feeling the political atmosphere to match the physical atmosphere of the time in which he existed in the last 2 days of his life. He was facing injunctions. That's why in that tremendous excerpt from the sermon that you played, the last speech he gave on April 3rd, 1968, he said, we're not going to let any injunctions turn us around. But he also said, if America is to be great, it must do the things that made it great, which is talking about reading of the freedom to gather, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of press, the freedom to speak, the freedom to protest for the right to be free. And so we are precisely where Dr. King enumerated and articulated on that day. My pastor, the late, great Reverend Dr. Frederick Sampson, used to say, we have already come through what we have come to. And so the thing is, we can't forget that things have been far worse than they are now. Now, there are some new elements, to be certain. The kind of neo-fascism, the kind of patrimonial intensity being unleashed on this country, the kind of autocracy that is being tested. But the truth is, we have faced in our own community what this has meant, because racism is a dry run for fascism. Racism is a warm-up for the attempt to apply the same principles of denial of voting, denial of opportunity, of economic tariffs imposed upon us arbitrarily, the black tax. We've been through all this. It just wasn't called that. But we have already absorbed in our collective imagination the conditions under which America finds itself now. So it would behoove the nation to turn to black folk right now and to black history to figure a way out of the perilous predicament of our presence.
Nobody returns a phrase like Michael Eric Dyson. Racism is a dry run for neo-fascism. That's Dyson quoting, and give him attribution when you do. To your point earlier about King in that last speech, Mountaintop, talking about, as we heard, we ain't going to let no injunctions turn us around. When I heard that again last night, preparing for this conversation, you know exactly where I'm going. I substituted the word injunction with executive order. We ain't gonna let no executive order turn us around. What do you think King would make, and what does Michael Eric Dyson make of this moment, where it's not just injunctions against Negroes? It ain't just injunctions stopping us. It's executive orders aimed at everybody, or as we say in my neighborhood, everybody.
Everybody. Well, see, this is what Dr. King warned white America, that racism will hurt you, perhaps in some instances, even worse than it hurts us. Remember, Dr. King in his jail, and I think he recounts this in that momentous letter from a Birmingham jail, where he says to his jailer, what you're doing is wrong. Segregation is wrong. And remember, they argued with him. No, Dr. King, segregation is right and you are wrong to want integration. They go back and forth. And finally, King asks him, how much money do you make? And then when the man answered, you can imagine Dr. King saying, well, my God, you need to be out here marching with us. So the thing is, Doc, Dr. King said, you a Negro and don't even know it.
Yeah.
You getting treated like a Negro and don't even know it. Now, you join King to LBJ, not LeBron James for you youngsters, but Lyndon Baines Johnson, when he said, if you tell a white person he's better than any Negro, you can pick his pocket. He said, heck, if you tell him he's better than all of them, he'll pick his pockets for you. He'll empty his pockets for you. I'll be darned if we don't see this, both King and LBJ playing itself out. The hurt and pain of the very dramatic tension that is evoked in this country when executive orders don't just stop at the border of Black America, but really integrate themselves into the fabric of American democracy is hurting white folk. Oh, my God, I would have never voted for him if I knew I was going to lose my job, all right? That's King. LBJ, here are people who are willingly being complicitous in a very system that will ultimately undermine them. Now this man is unleashing tariffs, the likes of which we have never seen before, and it will hurt the very people who most vociferously articulated their support for this man. So black folk always done known, this ain't nothing new. You're trying to hurt us, you're going to hurt yourself. As the great Beyonce said, hurt me, you hurt yourself. And the reality is that America is hurting itself. And that means on the flip side, if you want to help yourself, help black people. Because when you help the black condition, you're helping the American condition. When you talk about voting, when you talk about ID laws directed against us, when you talk about executive orders about DEI, and theirs is, I don't know, distraction, emasculation to men and intimidation to women. This is a horrendous refusal to acknowledge the beauty and power of democracy, and that will ultimately affect white America. But when we help black people, we pass a civil rights bill. And that civil rights bill doesn't just help black people, but women. The senators, you will remember, who were racist and Dixiecrats said, you know how we're going to undermine this civil rights bill? Let's throw in something for women, and we know their sexism will undermine the entire bill. I'll be darned if the bill didn't pass, and women, Title IX and others, rode in on the back of black America's struggle. So when you help black folk, you help American society, and that's what Dr. King understood.
I say all the time, when you make black America better, you make all of America better. Dyson just put his finger on it. You make black America better, you make all of America better. Speaking of the black condition, I want to play a clip for you of Dr. King that you may never have heard. So I am no Michael Eric Dyson, never will be in terms of intellect, but I've had the honor of writing a book about Dr. King. As you know, mine was called Death of a King. Dyson's written a couple of books about King. My favorite is called I May Not Get There With You, The True Martin Luther King Jr. If you can find that book anywhere and get it on your shelf, read it first, then, of course, put it on your shelf. But it's called I May Not Get There With You, The True Martin Luther King Jr. So Dyson and I have been friends for 30-plus years. We've had this conversation more times than I can count in public spaces, but mostly in private spaces, about the fact that while you may know King for only one speech, and I think people think he only gave one speech in his whole life, and that speech only had one line in it, that I want my children to live in a nation where they'll not be judged by the color of their skin, by the content of their character. If I put a gun to your head, you couldn't tell me nothing else in that speech. That's all we know, because when we talk about King, they played the same clip over, the same B-roll, over and over and over again. So here's a clip of King that you may never have heard. It ain't the Martin of I Have a Dream. Again, I raise that because Dyson and I have debated more times than I can count again what we actually think is King at his rhetorical best. He was never disappointing, but there are moments of just absolute rhetorical genius beyond I Have a Dream. So speaking of the black condition, listen to this clip of Dr. King.
There are 40 million poor people here. And one day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you begin to ask that question, you're raising a question about the economic system, about a broader distribution of wealth. When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. And I'm simply saying that more and more we've got to begin to ask questions about the whole society. We are called upon to help the discouraged beggars in life's marketplace. But one day we must come to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. You see, my friends, when you deal with this, you begin to ask the question, who owns the oil? You began to ask the question, who owns the iron ore? Now, don't think you have me in a bind today. I'm not talking about communism. What I'm talking about is far beyond communism. My inspiration didn't come from Karl Marx. My inspiration didn't come from Engels. My inspiration didn't come from Trotsky. My inspiration didn't come from Lenin. Yes, I read Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital a long time ago. And I saw that maybe Marx didn't follow Hegel enough. He took his dialectics, but he left out his idealism and his spiritualism, and he went over to a German philosopher by the name of Feuerbach and took his materialism and made it into a system that he called dialectical materialism. I have to reject that. What I'm saying to you this morning, communism forgets that life is individual. Capitalism forgets that life is social. And the kingdom of brotherhood is found neither in the thesis of communism nor the antithesis of capitalism, but in a higher synthesis. It's found in a higher synthesis. Now, when I say question in the whole society, it means ultimately coming to see that the problem of racism, the problem of economic exploitation, and the problem of war are all tied together.
Lord have mercy. Dyson, what can you say, Michael? What can you say?
Just play him for the rest of the show, Doc. I don't even want to talk no more, man.
That Negro went thesis, Hegel, antithesis, and synthesis.
And talking about what Marx missed in not dealing enough with Hegel, taking his materialism, but not the spirituality. He could have had the Zeitgeist and the spirit of the time and the Heilsgeschichte, which is the sacred history. Doc, and then talking about Feuerbach.
Yeah.
My God, he the GOAT, Doc. He the GOAT. He the GOAT. Man. And talking about radical ideas that people don't want to associate with Dr. King. Because even though he wasn't talking about communism, he did embrace democratic socialism. Mm-hmm. He did embrace the ability to articulate ideas that would challenge the prevalence of capitalism in this country. And that's not a king we often hear from. And for you to play that from I think, was that a Sunday morning sermon?
Absolutely.
That Dr. King was delivering, Doc. It is extraordinary. And talking about, here we got, close the door. I want to take up this offering of $40,000. My God, Doc. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you a sap.
Yeah.
But you got to stand up and be a man.
Ouch. I'm not saying you a sap. Y'all got that right. You got that. Can you imagine sitting in the seats, the benches of Ebenezer, and getting that every Sunday morning? Because as you know, he traveled all week long, but he always made it his business to be home on Sunday morning. And as you know, had he made it back to Ebenezer on Sunday after Memphis, he was going to preach a sermon entitled, Why America May Go to Hell. He didn't consign us to hell, but why America may go to hell. That's where he was going had he made it back to Ebenezer. Again, this ain't I Have a Dream of 63, but in 45 seconds, can you imagine? And this wasn't no mega church. This is Ebenezer, right? He didn't have the biggest church in Atlanta. He was Dr. King, but didn't have the biggest church in Atlanta. But can you imagine getting some of that every Sunday morning?
Doc, we have gone from mega church to MAGA church, and Dr. King had a magnificent church where Negroes stood at the temple of his high intellect and worshiped the God who revealed God's self through the grandiloquence and the edifying eloquence of the greatest master of oratory this nation has seen.
Now you see why Michael Eric Dyson and I argue all the time. He is the greatest American this country has ever produced. They killed him, and you know why. 57 years ago tomorrow. More of our conversation with Michael Eric Dyson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. President Trump announced global tariffs on what he calls Liberation Day, targeting countries like Canada, Mexico, China, and the EU. He claims these tariffs would make America wealthy again by addressing decades of trade imbalances. Critics argue the tariffs were unfair and could cause hyperinflation. A measles outbreak has spread from Texas to New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas with over 500 cases. Mennonite church members are linked to a spike in Mexico. Former President Obama humorously apologized for photobombing of black families' cherry blossom photos in D.C. He shared the incident on Instagram saying, quote, "Preston and Belle, I hope you enjoyed peak bloom. My bad for stepping into the shot." And the latest Forbes list of celebrity billionaires is out. Rounding out the top 5 are NBA legend Michael Jordan with $3.5 billion, and Oprah Winfrey joins him with $3 billion. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Since the dawn of baseball, countless players have heard the call of destiny. Witness the heroes of the game in ballparks nationwide. Get your tickets today at MLB.com/tickets. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Los Angeles was the epicenter of women's college basketball this season, and the awards are rolling in. USC star Juju Watkins was voted the Naismith Player of the Year by a national panel of coaches and media. UCLA coach Corey Close is the Naismith Coach of the Year, and UCLA center Lauren Betts was voted Defensive Player of the Year. Watkins is a finalist for the Wooden Award, which also goes to the nation's top college basketball player. The sophomore from Compton led USC to a 30-3 season before suffering a knee injury in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Watkins finished the season averaging 23.9 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 3.4 assists. Close, in her 14th season at UCLA, led the Bruins to a 34-2 record and their first Final Four. Betts, a 6'7 junior from Centennial, Colorado, ranks 5th in the nation in block shots. She has 18 in the Bruins' last 5 games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, and it's almost time to celebrate KBLA's 4th anniversary, coming up Juneteenth 2025. We'll be marking the achievement with 4 key community events, including a special symposium, luncheon, and brain trust hosted by me entitled The State of Black Women in Los Angeles. Keep it locked here for details on how to join us for this groundbreaking symposium examining the unique challenges, triumphs, and contributions of Black women in Los Angeles in the areas of education, healthcare, community leadership, cultural and political contributions. This public convocation will provide a critical forum to address the specific social, economic, and political realities facing Black women in LA today. We'll go live with a radio broadcast and YouTube live stream, a public discussion, and a private dialogue with some of LA's most impactful women. It's an affirmation of Black women standing at the intersection of race and gender in times of adversity while demonstrating remarkable resilience and leadership. We will listen and we will speak out and be heard, all in service of finding opportunities and solutions. Please plan to join us in celebrating our 4th anniversary by amplifying the voices of Black women. For more on our symposium and 4 events celebrating 4 years on the air, simply stay tuned or keep an eye on KBLA1580.com and help make this Juneteenth more jubilant with all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
And Michael Eric Dyson. Never enough time with Michael Eric Dyson. We are taking a moment as we do around this same time every year. It's a ritual for me. I never, ever get to April 4 without talking to Michael Eric Dyson. And so here he is again today on the eve of tomorrow's 57th anniversary commemoration of the assassination of Dr. King. We do it every year. Mark your calendar for next year. We'll be here again, Lord willing, do it again, and see where Trump 2.0 has taken us a year from now. I shudder to think about that. The clip we just heard, Michael Eric Dyson, I looked it up specifically to get the date right. The clip we played a moment ago that just stirred our souls, and I can tell by the comments I'm seeing on social media, it stirred the souls of listeners as well. That speech was August 16th, 1967. You know where I'm going. I want to situate that date. August 16, 1967. He's dead, of course, April 4, 1968. So not even 6 months later, barely 6 months later, they assassinate him. But when you hear that rhetorical genius, more to the point, when you hear what he's laying down, what he's putting down in 67, this ain't 63 no more, Dyson. King has evolved in his thinking.
Oh, my God. I mean, that incredible speech that Dr. King gave on that day, and I think he was speaking to the FCLC.
That's correct.
And, you know, that's where he could tell the truth. And he said, if you go out here and say, you know, that I'm a democratic socialist, I'm going to tell you I am. I'm going to say I ain't. But the thing is, he was bearing his soul to them. And he had transformed from a studious defender of an evangelical piety that had deep roots in the white culture. Let's acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. Even though he was later accused of, you know, plagiarizing their sermons, he took and did with their sermons what they could never do with their own. He baptized them in the name of a black Jesus, and they were resurrected on some rhetoric that they would never otherwise experience. You can go to Halford Luckock, Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution. Dr. King turned that thing out. Now the difference is when it came down, right? So when Dr. King said what that boy said, that was a different thing. Even the drum major instinct, William Hamilton and others. So Dr. King took the oratory of white America because it had been accepted by them and then used it as a vehicle to articulate ideas that they would never have the courage or imagination to do. Now, he transformed from that particular era to believing that America was essentially righteous, but that it had to really adjust itself internally. Then he went to believe that, as he said in that speech, that America has to have a fundamental reform, what he called a fundamental revolution of values.
That's right.
And that fundamental revolution of values meant that America must stop focusing on material gain and speak about spiritual uplift and moral transformation and economic redistribution. He said, look, it didn't cost the nation anything to have the Civil Rights Bill of 64. It didn't cost the nation to have the Voting Rights Act of 65. He said, but what we're pressing for now will cost the nation something. And so Dr. King was in a very revolutionary mindset and modality. He was willing to transform the civil rights movement by embracing anti-war rhetoric, by talking about the need to join with others who were disenfranchised. So he talked about Cesar Chavez and joining with that movement. And he began to broaden the scope of his own intellectual appreciation for the integrated character of the suffering of black people and those not only around the country, but around the world. But make no mistake, he was a revolutionary figure who had transformed fundamentally, or at least come out of a kind of ideological closet to expose to the world his belief and thinking about what it would take to make America a just nation.
I believe, Michael Eric Dyson, I suspect you probably agree with me, we shall see, and if not, you can feel free to disabuse me of this notion. But my view, particularly in this American moment, is that the future of this democracy, or as I call it, an experiment in democracy, we have a Madisonian framework for democracy, but we ain't quite achieved that yet. So the future of this experiment in democracy, as I see it, is inextricably linked to how seriously we take the legacy of MLK. And to my mind, that legacy is what? Justice for all, service to others, and a love that liberates people. But that means having to wrestle with the radical king. No naivete in this question, but why is it that we don't want to, when we hear speeches like that, why do we not want to wrestle, particularly in this moment, with the radical king?
Well, because the radical revolutionary king demands something of us, not just of them. When we were comfortable, oh, yeah, they got to change, Doc. The white folk got to change, Doc. Yeah, the white folk got. Now he's saying, no, we all got to change. Now it demands something of us. I remember reading right near the death of Dr. King, maybe about 4 or 5 years later, that a quotation. I don't think it was Andy Young, but it was one of his associates who said, Dr. King died at a good time for us, too, because he was asking us and making demands of us that I'm not sure we were prepared to follow through on, that we were prepared to make. And so this is a man who's down to wearing 3 suits, who used to be called Tweed in his younger days. This is a man who gave up most of his money to the civil rights movement. All of his book money and royalties went to the civil rights movement and to schools and stuff. And so did his, Nobel Prize money, $54,000. That was a lot of dough back in 1964. It's a lot of dough right now. And he gave up most of his speaking engagement money to the movement. He had to borrow money from his daddy every year to pay taxes right around this time. So the point is that Dr. King was not only revolutionary in his thought, he was revolutionary in his practice. He was doing the very thing. He didn't even have a nice crib. His wife had to beg him finally to buy a house, and when he did, he bought one in the hood. Not thinking, of course, ultimately of her safety and his own kids. He was that selfless. He had a magnificent obsession upon what it would mean to sacrifice your life for the benefit of the entire nation. So, yeah, most people ain't going to talk about that revolutionary radical king because that's an indictment on all of us with our accumulated wealth, with our mega churches, with our theology of leisure and luxury, with our culture that admonishes us to pursue wealth at all costs. This Dr. King was a challenge to us internally, and I'm not sure then and still not today that we are willing to accept his challenge to us as well.
That house that Michael Eric Dyson speaks of is still standing. If you're in Atlanta, when you're next there, just go on Sunset. The little house is still there on 234 Sunset Avenue. I know it well. I've been there many times. Coretta Scott King lived there, of course, many years. 234 Sunset Avenue. If you're ever in Atlanta, just drive by and see the little house in the hood that Dr. King bought. And I would only add to that list of that brilliant list that Michael Eric Dyson just laid out to prove the point that King was not caught up with money and material things. Everything Michael Eric Dyson said was true. And then when he died, Harry Belafonte had to pay for his funeral. So it just goes to show that King, that money was not his God. There is news at this hour, and this, it makes sense for us, I think, to delve into all three of these subject matter on the day that we are talking about the life and legacy of Martin King. And you'll really see Michael Eric Dyson's brilliance now. Just listen when we come forward to how he weaves in King to all three of these news stories. No pressure, Michael Eric Dyson, but I've seen him do it so many times. These are the three stories I want you to know about at this hour, and we'll let Dyson opine as he will when we come forward in no particular order. Eric Adams has just announced in New York City just now that he will run as an independent in the mayoral race. The embattled mayor's announcement comes after corruption charges against him were permanently dismissed by a judge on yesterday. You heard Mayor Eric Adams on this program on Monday. He was here on Monday. Yesterday, on Wednesday, they dropped charges permanently against him. Today, on Thursday, he announces he is done with the Democratic Party. He is now running as an independent in the New York mayoral race. There's story number one. Story number two, a new book out from NBC reporters. Finds that Obama was working against Kamala Harris behind the scenes, didn't think she could win. All the details in a new book. It is the talk of Washington right now, this new book. The third story, when we come forward, this is really scary. A new focus group of black men who backed Trump finds that they, even right now, approve of his presidency. They've raised concerns about Elon Musk and Doge, but they backed Trump in the election, and they approve, even right now, of his presidency. We'll let Michael Eric Dyson respond to all three when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting. On Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall. Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. This is a community call to action brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Michael Eric Dyson as we commemorate tomorrow, April 4, the 57th anniversary of the assassination of the man we regard as the greatest American this country's ever produced, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When I think of MLK and black mayors, Michael, I think of Carl Stokes. As you well know, King goes to Cleveland many times to campaign for Carl Stokes, who does in fact win and becomes the first black mayor of a major American city. And then on the night that he wins, he goes to King's hotel room at the Sheraton, tells King, I'm going down now to give my speech. I'm going to call for you to come stand with me on stage. King, in his grave, is still waiting for that phone call. King campaigned for him, but King was so toxic near the end of his life, having come out against the Vietnam War, that Carl Stokes lied to him, said he's going to bring him out, and never did. But that's what I think of when I think of black mayors and Martin. But Eric Adams is now running as an independent. Take it, Michael Eric Dyson.
Yeah, Dr. King was dissed by Stokes. He stoked a cage of denial for the great Dr. King because, as you said, sublimely, that he was too toxic by then. He was too radioactive to be embraced by a political figure. Eric Adams has proved to be a highly strategic mayor, to be certain. And now that he's been let off the hook, though the judge certainly cast aspersion against the means by which that was done.
That's right.
There's no question that now Eric Adams who says, I remain a Democrat, but I will be independent, Democratic in outlook. But as you well know, Tavis, a lot of black folk who were progressive found him problematic. He brought back stop and frisk. So Dr. King would have said, I think, in his infinite wisdom, we have to be skeptical and critical of black political figures who dress up their own ideas in clothing that proves to be problematic for us. And so at the end of the day, we got to hold them to the same standard we would hold any political figure. What does your action do to either detract from or add to the progressive realization of freedom, democracy, and justice for black people? And many, many black people would answer right now that he's found wanting even before now, and we'll wait to see what happens of his mayoralty in the offing. Now, here's the interesting thing. Andrew Cuomo is getting involved.
That's right.
And some people are saying if Andrew Cuomo can get up in there, then certainly Eric Adams can contest. But Dr. King did say we don't want to replace white supremacy with black supremacy. I'm going to leave it there. Anyway,
yeah. No, he did say that, and we will leave it there. The other story, yeah. I'm looking at my clock. Hold that thought, Mike. I'll cut you loose in 1 second. Look at my clock. I don't want to give you 30 seconds. When we come forward, I'll let Michael A. Dyson respond to this news that Obama did not think that Joe Biden should continue, nor did he believe that Kamala Harris was the right replacement for Biden. He wanted an open primary, a mini primary, an open convention. He did not have the faith in her ability to win the election. That from the new book by reporters for NBC News, and this disturbing focus group that finds that black men who backed Trump in this recent election, even right now, still approve of his presidency, even as they're concerned about Elon Musk and Doge. We'll let MED respond to both of those when we come forward on TS.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2024, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-652-1714. That's 800-652-1714. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-652-1714 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Michael Eric Dyson. As I said, never enough time with him. I got 4 minutes left, 2 minutes per story. We'll start with the Obama story. Michael Eric Dyson, run.
You know, it is no surprise that Barack Obama was instrumental in denying the legitimacy of the campaign of Kamala Harris. He has never been especially embracing of her. I'm not suggesting that he wanted to be the only one, to be the monumental one, because she brings an even greater, if you will, circumference of diversities. Not only like him was she multiracial, but she was a woman at the same time, and she brought a wealth of experience that suggested her diversities were far more interesting and compelling than a racial one. And as a result of that, may have instigated some concern among certain acolytes. I'll leave it at that abstract level. But to get real deep and specific about it, it is a shame and a tragedy that the former president can't be heard about DEI. Don't know where he is on what's happening now with the assault upon black people, but behind the scenes, he can work to engineer the failure of a black woman and had the nerve to say to black men that you are the ones who, because of your sexism, won't support her, but you were the last one to endorse her. Sir, methinks thou dost protest too much. And then for those black men who back Trump despite his presidency, Negro, you get what you deserve. You silly Negroes who don't understand the fundamental character of political negotiation. Now, I ain't saying that if you had something to gain in the negotiation and in the navigation that you shouldn't, of course, articulate an ideal that could be preciously held by the masses of black folk, but you ain't done your job. And this man is not offering anything beyond his trumped-up charges against black people, his refusal to acknowledge the legitimacy of black culture, and now we discovered today to add a fourth story that Kevin Young, the director of the National Museum for African American History and Culture, has been placed on indefinite leave. This is a direct assault. Where you at, Barack? Where's your voice? Where are you speaking? Can we not simply make a lot of money with white folk, which is beautiful and powerful, make more of it, but make noise by committing yourself to the fundamental premise of democracy and to defend the people that you said you were not the president of? We know you ain't the president of black America, but you are beloved, rightfully so, as an icon for us, and no one has greater political capital than you. Speak, sir, in behalf of your people.
That's a mic drop moment. Nothing to add to that, except this. I told y'all days ago, many days ago on this program, that Barack Obama has been eerily silent. I raised that issue. Some of y'all didn't want to hear it. I'm in good company. Michael A. Dyson lays it out as brilliantly as anybody can. I close with this in 60 seconds. In this moment, and you established earlier, and we know that we have endured worse as black people, how might King, Dr. King, be advising us to navigate this grim and dark moment?
He would say, continue to hope. He would quote his inspiration, Howard Thurman, who said, never reduce your dreams to the level of the event, which is your immediate experience. Howard Thurman said, you got a choice. You can be a prisoner of the event you confront, or you can be a prisoner of hope. And Dr. King said, never give up hope, because when you give up hope, you die. So we must make a conscious choice to hold on to hope. There's another election in 2 years and another one in 4 years. He ain't God, y'all. He is not king. He is not even Martin Luther King. So we must stand up and protect this precious democracy that we have fought for so long. And for those who are thinking to leave this country, Dr. King said, I ain't going nowhere. And that's what we got to articulate as well.
Ain't nobody like him. That's why I do this every year. His book is, there are many books, more books than I got time to run down, but the one we're talking about right now that I come to every year. I may not get there with you. The True Martin Luther King Jr. by Michael Eric Dyson, among many, many other books, of course, he's written. In our third and final hour, speaking of King in Birmingham, we'll talk to one of the survivors of the 16th Street, if I can say it, a Baptist church bombing, 1963. We'll talk about that in our third hour. For now, Michael Eric Dyson, I look forward to doing this again. I mean, I'll talk to you before then, but I hope I'm on your calendar for next year around this same time, sir.
Love you, Doc, always. And Dr. King would say, I love that Tavis Smiley. He continues to resonate in deep truth and profound exegesis of the text of our democracy. All right, Doc.
I love you, man. Talk to you soon. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. President Trump announced global tariffs on what he calls Liberation Day, targeting countries like Canada, Mexico, China, and the EU. He claims these tariffs would make America